Hello and welcome to the CSBP Market Update. I'm Aiden Boyham, and joining us on the Market Update today we have CSBP Sales Strategy and Reliability Manager Ben Sudlow.
Good morning, Aiden.
Ben, let's jump straight into nitrogen. WA growers will be keen to know, how's urea supply looking over the coming weeks?
Since we last spoke nearly 3 weeks ago, we have been pretty successful in securing quite a bit more urea, and sort of over what we now cycle through over the next 10 weeks is really when nitrogen ships started arriving to the coast. We're feeling pretty comfortable about where those ships are coming from. They're pretty well planned, and it's just a matter of now making sure we've got the right amount to meet the expectation of farmers' demand for urea over the next 6 weeks.
So some product has already unloaded?
Yeah, so when we last spoke, we had a ship in Esperance and we had a ship unloading in Kwinana. We've got another ship coming that's just sailed from its load port. We've got another one which is about halfway here. So we've got a lot of urea, we've got ammonium sulphate that's sailing here as well. So there's good supply coming in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, but there'll be more flowing through. But that says, so it should be, because guess what? That's when demand starts happening right now.
Right. So, for growers thinking about, that urea requirement post-seeding, we do have product available to contract?
Yes, we do, Aiden. We've got good quantities of nitrogen to contract, including ammonium sulphate for those people looking to, top up that stuff that's going canola.
Ben, with global markets still pretty tight, and India recently going out with I think it was a 2.5 million tonne tender, how are those international dynamics affecting urea pricing at the moment?
Okay, so after the last tender, there was the view of how much would India take. They did take the 2.5 million as expected. They've got a subsidised market to their farmers, so they just buy because they need to get. Now, India, if you remember, they weren't getting LNG for their production plants, and as a result of that, they were about 30% down on their production in March from their local production, so they need to import more. They've still got about 350,000 tonnes of urea stranded sitting in ships in the Persian Gulf. So they need to buy to keep urea arriving into India to support the farm and food production. Them doing that, they took their 2.5 million tonnes, and immediately followed that, prices definitely drifted down. Having said that, the general view from those is that they now need to come back again. They're short for urea, so they have to come back to get another tender. If that happens, expectations sometimes from mid-May to late May. They take another big chunk of urea. Other markets start coming on as well. This kind of softness in the market, I know one of the publications view as well, so it's softening now, but it'll depend on how quickly and how readily India come back and how much more they take in the back end of May, or even as soon as middle of May.
So in terms of landed price at the moment here in WA, what are we looking at there?
Sort of retail pricing's around that low to mid 1400s now for urea, and that's probably relative to, you remember, a lot of these shipments we and the market have bought in the last 2 to 3 weeks because we had to buy, because it's now got to arrive, because we now need to actually put it out onto crops in the next couple of weeks. So ships that we might have contracted a couple of weeks ago are not going to arrive until the first week or first 2 weeks of June now. I'm
just coming a bit back to the ammonium sulphate you talked about earlier. But we understand, that the planted area of canola this season is going to be up on what it was last year. Can you just talk to us a bit more about, some of the efforts, in terms of procurement that we've gone to, and the importance of getting that Gran S here?
So I think Gran S became an attractive alternative nitrogen supply when Persian Gulf closed up for urea. Both it was well-priced nitrogen, and it just happened at a time when we'd had some early rain here. We could see that there was a reasonable chance that canola hectares were going to go up. Price was strong for canola, and in that context, reasonable priced N still, could we in fact need to go and get some more, which we've done. That supply is now here and coming. Probably the thing that we can see right now is the demand side, is canola applications seem to be happening now, first couple of days of May. And we're starting to see that Gran S and the NS range plus urea starting to move out of our sheds relatively quickly at the moment, and probably maybe a fortnight earlier than what we might have seen in previous years, even early years compared with history. So this idea that demand's on early for canola application, as that moves through the other cereals, it's really a key question of, right, you've got to plan what you need, because the ship's coming, but there's also demand's coming pretty quick as well.
Okay, just changing tack there slightly, Ben. Let's talk about Flexi-N, UAN. How is supply looking there, and how's our local manufacturing going at the moment?
Well, I think, as I said last time, Aiden, our objective is to take and make. Now, remember, we've got to buy, part of our urea import is to have a raw material to make Flexi-N, to make urea ammonium nitrate, being Flexi-N. So we're comfortable now. We've got the urea supply to underpin manufacturing, plus the ammonium nitrate that we've been getting. Both Geraldton, Esperance and Kwinana are manufacturing around the clock to not just meet immediate demand, but try and get ahead of what we expect the demand will be for dispatches through May, June and into July.
So Ben, I understand we've had a record month in terms of Flexi-N dispatch for April. Can you unpack that and explain how that's all unfolded?
Yeah, look, it's turned out, despite the challenge we had with Flexi-N supply, some months ago, it's pleasing that we've actually met that record, and it's probably important to look forward through May and June. We have the supply then to meet customers' need, and as you can see, right, those sort of dispatch rates, we really need to make sure that we continue to get a flow of trucks in and out of the plants pretty quickly, so we can maintain our production rates at full. We don't get that sort of, we've got to stop because we're starting to get full tanks, and make sure that continues to flow out to farm as quick as possible. So expecting strong dispatches through May and June as people get themselves ready for that later season application of Flexi-N.
Let's briefly touch on phosphates. Growers obviously up and down the state now will be a fair way through their seeding program. How are we looking like? What's our ability in terms of cropping compound supply looking like up to the end of seeding?
This is the question and the timing we've been waiting on for a while. If you remember back when the war broke out and we had a ship that we couldn't get loaded in the Persian Gulf of ammonium phosphates. In fact, there was a couple that we didn't get loaded of ammonium phosphates. First we had to go and find the replacement ships, and they were from locations that were longer sailing times. The last of those ships is now due in coming days. It'll be here over this coming weekend, and that ship now will meet the final demand that we have, or contracts we've got to meet that final run seeding through the back end of May. We load the ship, it's still coming from a long way, it's come from the US, as I've mentioned before. We've paid to get the ship steaming as quick as it can to get here. And look, we'd love to have been here 2 or 3 weeks earlier. That wasn't possible. It's nice to say that it's actually going to be here this coming weekend.
Okay, Ben, great to hear that there's product on the water and steaming here and will be here by the weekend. In terms of local manufacture, how's the granulation plant going?
And we've been very busy making K2, MacroPro, Agras range over the last 2 months, and a big call out to our operations team who've done a fantastic job in working the plant really hard. Their production rates are up at 20% over a normal year. Credit to their adaptability to the issues we're facing around phosphate supply. They'll keep running this plant through May, and that'll see supply run pretty steadily through May to see the end of seeding for 2026.
Well, okay, Ben, thank you. That's nitrogen and the latest on phosphates. Is there anything else to add?
Look, it's worth just quickly reaching out. I know thanks operations for running the ground plant well, but a big thank you to our customers, truckies and others who've been patient as we've managed to get phosphate supply to seeding, and we're managing through restoring nitrogen balance to the market as they finish the remainder of seeding, and hopefully the rest of the seeding goes well in the season. 2026 is a good one.
Well said, Ben. Look, on that note, we'll leave it there for today. Thank you for joining us. As always, the situation is very fluid and continues to evolve. So if you want to get the latest up-to-date information, please stay in touch with your local CSBP account manager. Ben, thank you for joining us on the Market Update today.
Cheers, Aiden.
And we hope to see you again soon. Bye for now.
This podcast is provided as general information only. The content of this podcast is not a recommendation and has been prepared without taking your objectives or circumstances into account. Before acting on the content of this, you should consider its appropriateness to your circumstances and seek independent advice.